Are we live? Seems that way. All right, good evening. 10th of September, I think it is, Tuesday evening, 8 o'clock. We're going to do a nice webinar on how to make good decisions. My name is Erik. Welcome. So, what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, I actually have a couple of nice things for you in mind to share with you. We're live on Facebook tonight. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Instagram. And of course, to the people who are right here, right now on Zoom, welcome. It's great to have you. I see that we have Alexandra here. I think, Alexandra, you were here last week. Is that true? And of course, we have Nicolientje again. Hoi, Nicolien. Alles goed? So it's great to have you guys. Yeah, I saw that the number of registrations today was a bit on the low side. Apparently, it's not a very, very hot topic. Anyway, let's see what we can do. Nicolien already says prima. All right, that is Dutch. And okay, I think Alexandra, you already know that I'm Dutch, right? So for you, I don't need to introduce myself. Now we have Wendy coming in. That is great. Hi, Wendy. Great to have you. I was just saying that the other people who are in the room right now, which is Nicolien and Alexandra, they've been here before. They need no introduction. But what I normally do is I ask people, where are you from? And why in particular are you here? Why are you here following this particular webinar? So that is what I want to ask all of you tonight. Maybe you can punch it in the chat quickly, why you're here, where you're from. Maybe you have a specific reason that you want to follow this webinar tonight. So as you can tell, probably by my accent, I'm not Irish, I'm not American or English, I'm actually Dutch from Holland. So that probably explains my accent. I hope you bear with me. I hope that it's okay. We'll keep it short anyway, it's just an hour. So it should be bearable. And I'm going to be covering some interesting data with you tonight. Good. All right. So Nicolien, she's from Holland. Thank you very much. You're interested in the topic. Great. Okay. That's fantastic to hear, Nicolien. All right. And how about you, Alexandra? I think, Alexandra, you're from Poland, right? Maybe you have a specific reason to be here. I know you were there. I know you were here last week. So apparently we're touching on some nice topics. Good to see you again. Do you have any specific reason why you came tonight, Alexandra? And maybe Wendy, maybe you also want to share. So like I said, I'm Dutch. My name is Erik. I'm 56 years old. I've been in Ireland right now since June 2022. So a little bit over 2 years. And the reason for that is that I've actually been traveling quite a bit. I've been to the Caribbean. I lived there for about 10 years. Then another year in Latin America. Spent some time in Scandinavia. Spent some time in Belgium. Now here, yeah, I like to move around. So I like to do my projects from time to time and then move around again. And one of the projects right now for me is that I really love to pass on data. So I run into some books, I ran into some titles. I was always very, very interested in self-help and self-betterment, self-improvement. I have an engineering background. I studied engineering and economics and had a degree in that, but somehow it didn't really satisfy me. I was still hungry for more. And so I started to read self-help books. I started to read books on psychology, philosophy, and I thought it was very, very entertaining. I thought it was great to read these books, right? Very, very motivational. The only thing in the end that usually happened after having read a book was that I had this thought like, okay, so how am I going to apply this in my life? In other words, what is the practicality? What is the workability of this stuff? How can I actually use it? And that's where I felt like I'm not there yet. Something is still missing. So tonight I'm going to show you a book. I'm going to do that quite soon. I'm going to show you a book, and we're going to cover some theory from that book, which I hope also to you guys will be very, very applicable. All right, so, Wendy, all right, you're from Meath. Okay, good, as a nurse, to create constructive environment at work. Okay, that's great, fantastic. Well, I hope you're going to get some insightful stuff, Wendy. And Alessandra, okay, yes, I'm currently in holidays in Warsaw, but back in Ireland next week. Great, okay. So Wendy, also for you, it's just 3 people right now on the Zoom chat. But like I said, we're also live on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and what have you. Good, now I have a question right away to start with. And that question is, in what area in your life would you like to be more in control? So in what area in your life would you like to be more in control? So you could say, well, it would be my work, or it would be relationships, or it would be my weight, for example, or my posture, my figure, or, well, I don't know, just you name it. Maybe you have a specific area in your life where you would like to have a bit more control. Okay, Nicolene, the neighborhood. Okay. All right, so what's going on over there? Maybe you want to elaborate on that. You could keep it short if you want to. Good. Now, if nothing else is going to pop up, I'm actually going to write a word on the whiteboard behind me. Okay, Wendy, definitely in situations when faced with conflict. All right, good. So I guess that's work related, right? Thank you very much. Okay. Nicolene, very thin walls. Yeah, I got you. It must be so annoying. Okay. I get it. All right, good. So we're going to write down a word, yeah? And that word is integrity. Now, it's I come up with a word for a reason, yeah? Because we're going to look at how to make good decisions. Well, integrity is a really interesting topic to look at. And so integrity was already a French word roughly around 1400. And then you basically had the same word, but then integrity. And that actually comes from Latin. And now I have to just take a peek. Integritatem. All right, so there's a number of meanings for what it would be. So we have a number of connotations for the word integrity. What do we mean by integrity? And I'm just going to write down a couple of words. One is innocence. And then we have blamelessness. And then we got soundness. We got wholeness. We got completeness. We got purity. And then finally, correctness. So you could say that if you have integrity, you basically have all that. Or you could say integrity just entails all these qualities that you may have. All right, now I'm going to read you a quote from this book. It's called Scientology, A New Slant on Life, which is like a new look on life. And that's a book by L. Ron Hubbard. He's a researcher in the field of the mind and in the field of life. So I'm just going to give you a short quote about integrity. And this quote is called personal integrity. What is true for you is what you have observed yourself. And when you lose that, you have lost everything. So what is personal integrity? Personal integrity is knowing what you know. What you know is what you know. And to have the courage to know and say what you have observed. And that is integrity. And there is no other integrity. Good. So let's see if we get that and if we can actually think with this. All right. Now, have you? By the way, let me see who else came in. Natalia, welcome. Great to have you here. My name is Erik. Good to see you. So have you ever observed, for example, that you were in a relationship and that you should stop that relationship because for some reason it wasn't really good for you? You observed that it didn't work. You observed that it wasn't good for you. And yet, you didn't immediately act on it and decide to do something about it or break up. So have you ever observed that you've been in a situation like that where you were in a relationship and it could have been work, right? So man, this work is just stressing me. I hate my job. I'm only here for the money. Or these colleagues are just pulling me down. But I need the money. Or whatever reason kept you there. Maybe you've been in a relationship with a partner, and you felt, gosh, I'm only doing ups and downs with this guy. So have you ever observed, right? Use your eyes, your feelings. Have you ever observed that you should stop a relationship because it wasn't good for you and you didn't immediately act on it? That is my question. Maybe you can put a yes or a no in the chat. Okay. Natalia, good evening, everyone. Nice to have you once again. That's great. Nicolene said yes to the question. Wendy said yes. Okay. Awesome. Good. So now, let's have a look then. Let's have a look again at the definition of personal integrity. So what is true for you is what you have observed yourself. And when you lose that, you have lost everything. In other words, you did observe that something was really wrong, not right, not optimum. It created a bad effect on you. And of course, it tempered a bit with your innocence, your blamelessness, your soundness, your wholeness, your completeness, your purity, your correctness, if you didn't act on it, right? So what is personal integrity? Personal integrity is knowing what you know. What you know is what you know. And to have the courage to know. And to say what you have observed. And that is integrity. And there is no other integrity. Okay, now, maybe you've been in this situation. Maybe you ever seen something happening and you say, gosh, that is such a no-no. That shouldn't be happening. But then you didn't decide to mention anything about it just to keep the peace. You've ever been there? You saw somebody do something, or you observed something. You say, oh, you know what? I'm just going to zip my mouth. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to be in trouble. I want to keep the peace. Have you ever been in a situation like that? You observed something, it wasn't right, it was clearly wrong. You say, okay, good. I'm not going to act. I'm not going to say anything just to keep the peace. Okay, so Nicolene, yes, you had a visitor for 6 months and you wanted him to go. All right. Wendy, yes, thank you. Nicolene, all right. Big fight next door. Okay, so here's the point. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the answer. Here's the point. You do observe something, and with that observation comes that you know something. And then if we don't use our integrity, we actually pretend that we don't know it. You see? You kind of like pretend that you don't know it, or that you didn't see it, or that you didn't observe it, right? And it's going to affect your integrity in a bad way. What is true for you is what is true for you. And what is true for you is what you have observed yourself. And when you lose that, you've lost everything. So we're going to actually have a look at what is it that we're going to lose, okay? So let's see how our mind deals with that. All right? Good. Okay, Natalia. Yes, I was. Thank you. Okay, now there's an interesting thing that everything in this universe seems to have one thing in common. And that's true for everything. It's true for life. It's true for material objects. It's true for everything. All that you see around you, into the deepest parts of space, all has one thing in common. And that thing is survive. So, would that be true for a material object? For sure. Let's imagine you buy that marker, and as soon as you get home, it disintegrates and it evaporates. And it's no longer a marker. It's gone. Well, that's not what it's doing. It is actually surviving. It is right now, here, in this moment in time, in this space, is present. And it was there the week before. And it was there the week before. And if I won't toss it away, if I won't burn it or do anything with it, and just keep it there on the shelf, it'll be here next week. The one thing that it's doing is surviving. And if you look at life forms, you see that the impulse is to survive. And the better you as an individual survive, the more you will be rewarded with pleasure. So pleasure and survival, they kind of like go hand in hand. Good. Now, what we can actually do is that, so I just showed you a chapter on personal integrity. There is another chapter that actually tells you what life is comprised of. And we're actually going to have a look at 8 different urges that we all have, and along which we are trying to survive. All right, now the first one is very simple, because the first one would be that you try to survive just as yourself, right? So you have an impulse, you have an urge to eat, you have an urge to drink. You know that if you won't eat, if you won't drink, that body's not going to last long. So you have the impulse to make that body survive. You want to keep that thing surviving. You might be taking great nutrition. Might be be on the lookout for, okay, what can I do in order to keep it in optimum shape? Maybe you're looking for special vitamins, minerals, supplements. Maybe you're going to take yourself for a walk, or maybe you're going to do sports. All these things that you do, they have the purpose to prolong life, you could say. Okay, so now the next urge, and we actually call these urges dynamics. So we got dynamic 1, 2, 3, up to 8. The next dynamic is to survive through the family, and that would entail children, which is the product of sex. So you would have sex and children. You could also say that's the family unit. Now, if you have children, you probably feel that urge very, very strongly to get them out of bed in the morning, to feed them. In the evening, you want to make sure that they're in bed in time. You want to make sure they do well in school. You care for them because you have that urge to help your kids to survive. And you would probably do the same thing for your partner. If everything is in harmony, you might be doing the same thing. But the next urge is to survive as groups. So you could say that maybe you're a part of our sports club, and that is your group. And if somebody would come to you and say, hey, listen, you know, we're a bit in dire straits financially. We need to raise the contribution a little bit. And would you be okay if we raise the contribution every month by, let's say, another 10 euros? Well, if that group is really important to you, if you want that group to survive, you probably say, yes, okay, I'll support this. I'll support this because that group, this group has a survival potential for me. It helps me to survive. I make friends here. I have people here that I can rely on. The activities themselves, they contribute to my well-being. So I do want to contribute to that group. Now, it could be a sports group. It could be a political group. It could be any social group. You could say, well, you know what? We're looking at a tournament, which is, I don't know, cricket or hurley or football or whatever. And it's Ireland against Holland, for example. And you would say, oh, you know, I'm Irish. The Irish, that's my group. You know, I support the Irish. And I might say, well, you know, I'm Dutch. I'm supporting the Dutch because that would be my group. Well, it's not necessarily true, but it could be that way, all right? So a city could be a group. You could consider, all right, you know, that is my team because that team happens to be from my city, and I support that group. So you could consider that you're a member of various groups. Now, the fourth one would be mankind. So it's a rather interesting thing. There might be doing collections in the street and asking for money, and you're passing by, and you're being approached, and you get that question, listen, we're collecting money for the poor children in Malawi. Just bring up a country, right? Because they have these poor children, they're only eating corn or rice, they got these bellies, and they're suffering from malnutrition. Would you be willing to support the cause to make sure that these kids actually have a future and can be healthy and can be educated receive education. And you might say, yeah, you know what, I'm pulling my wallet, I'm giving a couple of euros. And if you look at it, it's an interesting phenomenon because you've never seen those kids. You don't know those kids. You know what's going on, I don't know, 12, 15,000 kilometers down south. Yet you have the urge, the impulse to do something. Say, you know what, I'm supporting the cause. And in that way, we're all supporting certain costs. Somebody might say, you know what, okay, I do my yearly donation for the Red Cross. Or something similar, which is you feel you have the urge to support mankind. You might just walk in the street and all of a sudden find a French word, clochard. Clochard is a beggar, somebody who's living in the street, right? Who's homeless. And he might just be sitting there and asking you for some money. And then you feel the impulse, like, oh man, you know, this guy must be hungry. It's cold. I should give him something. And once again, you don't know the person, but you have that intrinsic care in you to care for your fellow man. That would be mankind. All right? Okay, so let's have a look at the next one. The next one would be the animal kingdom. And by animal kingdom, we mean not just animals alone, we mean plants, we mean grasses, we mean bushes, we mean insects, we mean the fish in the sea, the animals on the land, the birds in the sky, any life form, essentially. And we're very concerned to keep these life forms alive. And that will be the animal dynamic. So if you would have plants at home, you'd probably have a routine that you water them regularly. And why do you do that? Well, you do that simply because you want them to survive. You might have a cat or a dog or a hamster or a bird. An animal, a pet, in other words. And you probably feed your animal. And why do you do that? Because you have this inborn urge to help your animal survive, right? And then you could say you actually have a fifth dynamic. Good. Now the next one, the sixth one, is called MEST. And that's an acronym. And this stands for matter, energy, space, and time. There's 4 components that you can see in the physical universe that has these 4 factors always in common. That is true for an electron, or a molecule, or even a planet. So let's take the marker again. So the marker, it exists in time. It was here a couple of minutes ago, still here. The marker exists in space. It exists in this space, but also has its own space. Then it's composed of matter, and as you probably know from quantum physics, you get all these molecules bouncing up and down and whatever they do. So it's also got energy in there. Yeah? So that's an acronym. It's an abbreviation for matter, energy, space, and time. Now, who would be very concerned? Who would be very concerned if a scientist comes up with an idea to shoot the moon to pieces? Would you be concerned about that? Maybe you want to put that in the chat. Would you be concerned if a scientist comes up with an idea to shoot the moon to pieces? What do you think? Would you be concerned, yes or no? All right. Nicolene, very much. Wendy, yes, thank you very much. Why would you be concerned? Well, because you know that moon is critical to keep planet Earth doing what it does. Yeah, it would make life on planet Earth probably impossible, right? Exactly. So you have that inborn urge again, that knowingness, so to speak, that you have to take care of matter, energy, space, and time. Now it's quite interesting. Maybe you have a car, or you have owned a car. Most likely, if you would have it serviced, and some time would pass by, you might say, you know, gosh, it's been more than half a year ago. Or it's been a year ago that it had it serviced last time. I should bring it to the garage. I should have it serviced. Well, why is that? Why is that? Well, very simple, because you want that car to survive. All right? And let's say you just had dinner. It's past 8. You just had dinner. And so you had your dinner from your dishes, and you used your pots and pans to cook dinner. And you probably feel the urge to clean it up. To clean up the cooker or the stove or the oven, and clean up the pots and pans and plates. And why would you do that? Because you know that if you just leave it there for a whole month and you wouldn't look after it, you could probably toss it away. It wouldn't survive, in other words, right? Good. Now, we get to an interesting one. Since we have a little bit of time, I'm going to go into that a little bit. The 7th one is actually the spirit. Or plural, spirits. So you want to survive as a spirit. Now, actually, man has been pondering on this whole subject of what is the spirit, what is our true potential, where did we come from, where are we going to, what is holding us back, how much potential do we really have, and on and on and on. Like, what happens in the afterlife? Is there something as reincarnation? Is it possible to have lived an earlier life? Is it possible to live again? In other words, there have been a lot of questions. Now, there's actually some answers now, and some very, very valid answers. Answers which are very, very workable, that have led into practices that can quickly make a person more able, improve his reaction times, increase his intelligence, make him more confident, make him much more competent. It consisted of a technology of finding out what exactly it is that holds us back. And that's been discovered. It's been discovered right now what it is that holds us back. Good. So I'm going to give you a little snippet here, just a little idea of what we're dealing with. So what I would like you to do is imagine that you are in a living room again. Let's say you picked a house where you grew up as a kid. Choose the house where you grew up as a kid, and imagine that you're sitting in your favorite chair in the living room again. If you can do that. Imagine sitting in your favorite chair, or a chair where you would often sit. And imagine that you're there again. Now, are you actually picking up some images of that room? Can you put something in it in the chat? Are you picking up some images of that room around you? Perhaps you see a TV. Perhaps you see a table. Perhaps you see a window. Perhaps you see blinds or curtains. Perhaps you see a fireplace. Right? Perhaps you see a painting. Perhaps you can see a door. Nicolene says yes. Okay. Natalia says yes. Okay. Nicolene says you see the kitchen. All right. That's fantastic. Now, so we have a body here. And you as a spirit, you make pictures. I hope you can see that. So all these pictures here in time, that would be your mind. Now, let's do something just funny, interesting. What I would like you to do is stay in a chair. Just imagine you're in the same chair, in the same living room. And now with your index finger, point out where was the TV. So from where you were sitting, just go ahead and point out where was the TV. In my case, from where I was sitting, I had a TV about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 meters over there. It was one of these big, bulky TVs, wooden frame, big knobs on it. Good. Now, if you have done that, from where you're sitting again, point to a window, any window. Just go ahead. Imagine that you're in that room. It's okay. I have a window right there in front of me, or I have a window over here, over there on my right hand side. Cool. Now try to find a table. Where's the table in the room? See if you can actually get a glimpse of its height, the size, the shape, the texture, the color. It might just come to you. You get glimpses of it, right? Well, very good if you did that. All right, now finally, let's find a door. Let's find a door in the room. In my case, I had a door over here, and I had a door in the back of me. All right, were you able to do that, guys? Were you able to point out these objects? Just please give me a yes or a no if that worked. Yep. All right. Yes. Cool. So when you saw the TV, the floor, the tiles, the couch, that was very good. That was very good. All right. Nicolene says yes. Okay. So there's something interesting here. And the interesting part is that these images seem to be three-dimensional. And what is so interesting here? Well, in psychology, they came up with the idea and they immersed the whole planet with the idea that you are your brain, that you live only once, and everything is just your brain. What did we just observe? We looked at a memory, and we actually saw the memory popping up around us. You did not say, okay, the TV is here, over there in my brain, and the door is over there in my brain, and the table is over there in my brain, and well, I don't know, the kitchen is over there in my brain. You didn't do that. Instead, you said, it's over there, it's over there, it's over there, right? So you're looking at something mental. You're not looking at something tangible. You can't touch that stuff, but you can experience it. You can see the shape of the TV. You can see the size of the window. You can see the color of the door, right? So you actually can experience that. Okay, good. So now, who is looking at those pictures? That's my question. Who or what is looking at these pictures? Feel free to pop that in the chat. Who or what is looking at these pictures? Nicolene says, I am. Very good. Okay, so I'm not going to keep you in suspense. So we could say it is simply you. So here we got the three component parts of man: the body, the mind, and you. There's an interesting fact here. You would not say, I am a body. You know that a body is something that you have, not what you are. You would say, I have two hands. You would say, I have a toothache. You would say, I have a nose. You would not say, I am a nose, or I am a toothache, or I am two hands. You know that a body is something that you have. You know that a mind and a memory is something that you have. People complain about that. I have lost my memory. I don't have a very good memory. Right? You know that these things are things that you have. So the mind is something spiritual. It's an interesting thing. And there's been great many discoveries on that subject of what you really are. What is your true potential? And what is holding you back? It seems that there's some stuff happening in there that is holding you back. If you want to know more about that, I would recommend you to read that book, A New Slant on Life. So, but for now, you want to survive mentally. You want to, most people are just afraid of, let's say, not getting any Alzheimer's. It would be dreadful to lose your memory, right? Well, you're interested in your mental faculties. You're interested in your spiritual well-being. Okay, I hope I've cleared that up a little bit. And then finally, the eighth urge, the eighth dynamic, it would be the urge to survive infinitely. And for the believers among us, you could also say God. Good. So now we're not going to touch on that subject of God. You could say God, you could say infinity. The whole idea is that if you would live infinitely, potentially, you wouldn't be worried. If you know that death is just around the corner and it ends there, that would be the maximum mental pain. So you have 8 dynamics here. All right? Now there is an opposite to survive, and of course the opposite is to succumb or to die. I hope you can see that. And to succumb, that is actually associated with pain. So now let's have a look. So you could say you have 8 dynamics. You can also say you are 8 dynamics. That's what you are. Or that's what you have. Now, quick question. Which dynamic you think is the dynamic that is most troublesome to most people? Would it be themselves? Would it be sex? children, family, work, the group, taking care of mankind, the animal kingdom, the material universe, all material objects, spirituality, infinity. Which dynamic do you think is most worrisome, most troublesome to most people? All right. Nicolene says other people. All right. Natalia says myself. Good. Wendy says mankind. All right. Well, we are on planet Earth, right? We're on planet Earth. We see a tremendous struggle here. Wars. Another thing that is really having a bad impact on us is the material universe. We're in a body. We're growing up as kids. We're running. We're tripping. We're falling. We're injuring ourselves. We end up in a hospital. We decide we're never going to trip again because the next time is going to be more painful. So now we're going to watch out. Now we're going to limit our potentials. Just because we tripped, that shouldn't happen again. Or we have problems with our partners, right? Or self. So basically, it's true, guys. Your answers are all, you could say, equally important. Okay, now there's a working principle here. There's a working principle here, and that is, if you have a problem on one of those dynamics, it is going to fan out, it's going to affect all of the dynamics. I'm going to give you an example. Just a simple example, you've probably seen that. Let's say we have a pond here. That's a pond. And I'm going to toss a stone into the center of the pond. Now, is just the center of the pond going to be affected by the stone, or is a bigger area going to be affected by the stone? What do you guys think? If I toss a stone into a pond, will it just affect the center, or will it affect more than just the center? All right, so yeah, exactly, Wendy, we get a ripple effect, right? It actually affects the entire pond. Likewise, it works the same way with your dynamics. So let's say, I'm going to give you a question to make it clear. Have you ever been in the situation where you had a fight with your spouse, with your husband, or with your partner, and turned out to be quite sour? We're not really happy with it. So you had a quarrel here on your second dynamic. Did whatever happened here have an effect on your work? So if you had a bad day with your partner, a quarrel, did that also affect your work? That is the question. So let's say we reduce the survival of the second dynamic. We reduce it because we're reducing the survival potential because we're quarreling. We're in disagreement. We're having problems. We're having opposed opinions. We're going against each other. It's affecting our survival level. Does that just stay on the second dynamic alone, or does it ripple out? Does it also affect your work? That's my question to you guys. Does it also affect your work? Is that a yes? Is that a no? In the meantime, I'm enjoying my ginger tea. got this great recipe. I put cloves in it, and then cayenne pepper and honey. Okay, so Nicolene said yes. All right. Okay, are you guys in agreement? Are you in agreement that if you quarrel, for example, on your second dynamic, your family dynamic, and it goes to pieces, even if it's just for a few hours, that it also affects, for example, your work? And actually, it does. If you take one dynamic a bit down, if you reduce its survival potential, all the other ones are going to follow. I'm just going to give you a very simple example. Let's say you are sick. You're sick, you're not feeling well. So your self-dynamic is actually lowered. Now, because you are sick, you cannot take care of your kids. So it reduces, to that extent, their survival potential. Because you are sick, you cannot show up at work. You cannot contribute to the Red Cross, for example. You might not think about your cat or your dog and forget to feed him, or your plants. And not take care of the plates and the oven, these kind of things. Of course, it affects you spiritually, worries. And of course, when you have worries, it affects your first, which is your body. And it affects your outlook towards the future, your infinity. Good? So, let's say you take a person who thinks he's very smart. You think he's very smart, or he thinks he's very smart because he's got access to the cashier at work. And from time to time, he's taking some money out of the cashier because he thinks it's harmless, because the company is making loads of money. And nobody will ever notice. So he thinks he and his girlfriend, they're going to have an optimum survival by only harming the group that he's part of just a little bit, he thinks. So if he would harm the group, would he communicate more to the group, or would he communicate less to the group? In other words, he commits a harmful act. Is he going to communicate more as a result, or is he going to communicate less as a result? What do you guys think? What is going to be his future action in life? Is he going to communicate more, or is he going to communicate less? Okay, Nicolene, less. Wendy, less. Thank you. All right, now thank you guys for the answer. Here is the key thing. Life is communication. A person is as alive as he can communicate. He's as dead as he can't. He's as dead as he can't communicate. We admire the truly able person. Why do we admire this person? You will find out that truly able person can actually communicate. You'll see that person talking to anybody, probably on any subject. He wouldn't hold back. And the opposite would be a person who would be very, very withdrawn, too afraid to talk to anybody, too afraid to talk about any subject. right? If you look at it on a scale, and we see an artist that can do a performance and actually communicate to an audience. That's why we revere them. So the moment that actually he starts to communicate less on one dynamic, well, you probably get it already by now. The moment he starts to communicate less on one dynamic, he actually is going to reduce his whole survival potential on all dynamics. He's going to communicate less. For example, if you're really in a bad mood, you're not just in a bad mood here as yourself, you're going to be in a bad mood toward your partner. You're going to be in a bad mood towards your children. You're going to be in a bad mood toward your boss and your co-workers. You might snarl at whoever you meet on the street or just be ignorant. You might neglect life forms simply because you're in a bad mood. Likewise, if you love yourself, if you really love yourself, you're happy as a person, you will love others. You will love the people at your work. You will like to see other people. You will have love for animals. Your possessions will be in a great shape, and so on. Good. So, in other words, what is the? We're close to 9 o'clock. So, what is the best decision in any situation? The best decision in any situation is that decision, keeping in mind your personal integrity, your observation, keeping in mind that decision, which is the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. So if a decision, for example, takes a little bit of sacrifice, but it works out great on all the other dynamics, then it is a very, very good decision. If you want to know more about that, there's a whole chapter devoted to that in that book. And there's this cute booklet, which is called The Dynamics of Existence. And it goes into, let me see, goes into the goal of man. And then it goes into the dynamics. It's all great stuff. So now maybe you say, hey, but hang on, I'm running into certain issues. I'm having trouble on my second dynamic. Or I'm having trouble with work. Or I'm terribly stressed by everything that's going on the planet, mankind. Well, here's the thing. Everything starts with knowledge. So you might not know anything about cars. You might not know anything about engines. Yet, some people study it on YouTube. They get some manuals or whatever, and then actually they start to fix their own vehicles. Some people do that. They have that passion. And how come they were able to do that? Basically, because they acquired themselves the knowledge. So what I would like to do tonight, I would actually like to offer you some knowledge. So basically, I've only been touching upon personal integrity. I've been touching upon the 8 dynamics. I've been touching upon a little bit on the mind, on you as a mental, spiritual individual, something more than just your body. You could say you're a consciousness. And there's a lot to discover about who you really are, what you're really capable of. And so the knowledge that I would actually like to purvey is something that's just highly workable, something that you could use, not just like a motivational book, but something that can actually work for you, like a toolbox where you have a screwdriver, a hammer, a saw, and you can actually use these tools and actually get your products. Now, what is great about this book? This is such a toolbox. So you have a tool here, for example, it's got like a bunch of chapters. You'll find a chapter, is it possible to be happy? There's a chapter on personal integrity. And I didn't read that for you completely. I actually only read 2 paragraphs. Then there's a chapter, Man's Search for His Soul. And there's a chapter on our efforts for immortality. There's a chapter on the 8 dynamics, which we have covered partially. Then there's a chapter on how you can actually improve relationships and make any relationship better. Whether it is a business relationship, a social one, a family one. It also tells you how to mend broken relationships, how you do that. Then there's a chapter on handling confusions for work, to be better here, to be more organized, to be more efficient. There's some tools for marriage, some tools for children, to find out what is greatness, 2 rules for a happy living, and a whole chapter on the antisocial individual, commonly known as the narcissist, the psychopath. How do you actually detect them? What are his characteristics? So how can you recognize such a person? You actually find that in the book. You find out what is the true cause of any conflict. It's very interesting if you look at the conflicts which are going on planet Earth today. You can actually find out who or what is behind this. And finally, a chapter on honesty and ethics. So it's an amazing book. The book is normally €17. We're tossing in that extra book on the dynamics of existence, and we're offering that to you tonight together for €17, including shipping throughout of Europe. So the link is going to pop up right now. I'm actually going to have you give you a break, a 2-minute break, so you can actually have a look at it. I'm going to have a bit more tea and then come back for any questions. So in between, I have to tell you that it's a promotion and it's until 9:30. In other words, it's valid for the next 30 minutes, so to speak. Wendy, you just ordered it. Wow, that's amazing. That is just amazing. I see that Nicolene has the book already, and probably, I assume you're very happy with it. Natalia, I actually forgot to ask you, where are you from? Now, you seem to have a very Latin American name, somehow, to me. I might be wrong. But just out of curiosity, maybe you want to share with us where you're from? So Wendy, on your order, that's fantastic. I'm going to bring that up to Post first thing in the morning. And with a bit of luck, you could actually, depending on where you live, you might have that in your mailbox already on Thursday. And if you're a bit in the middle of nowhere, then it could actually take a few days, right? Okay, so Natalia, you're from Moldova. Fantastic. That's very nice. I have a very good friend, very close friend from Moldova. Actually, I have two very good friends from Moldova. I see them quite regularly. Good. Okay, Wendy, can't wait. Thank you. All right. Nicolene says, very good book. Took it with me on holidays. That's amazing. Yeah, so also for Natalia, in case that you want to have that book, for example, in Russian or in Romanian, because I know that people from Moldova do speak Romanian and they do speak Russian. You can actually get it in Russian or Romanian. We do have it in stock, and it's not going to cost you anything extra. It's actually the same price. Okay, so we have we have Cheryl Fisher here watching us tonight on Instagram, and she's from Florida. Oh, that's fantastic, Cheryl. I love it. I've been to Miami. Let me see. Yeah, I've been to Miami a couple of times because I lived in the Caribbean for 10 years. And I used to work for Caterpillar. And Caterpillar had a big office for Latin America in Miami. So it actually brought me to Miami. I did a little bit of a tour as well, the beach, toured from Miami to Orlando. So it's great. I look forward to go back. And great to have you. Okay, Natalie, yes, both language. Do you have that you mentioned? Yes, we have both language. I do have it in Romanian. I do have it in stock here. I also have the Russian version also in stock. Yeah. The one thing that I don't have in Russian is or Romanian. Most likely, it might be possible, but it would be this booklet. That one is very, very simple because it's a bunch of questions. It's a lot of pictures with the explanation, and it goes over the theory that I covered with you tonight on the 8 dynamics. All right, guys. So it's been great to have you here thus far. Is there anybody who has any question? Can't actually take questions. That's fine. Maybe there's something that you want to get sorted in your life. Maybe there's something that you feel like, you know, man, this planet Earth is just so much going on. I feel so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do anymore. What should I do? Is there any advice? Or is there anything that you're running into? Do you have a question like, gosh, can I do anything about this? You're free to ask any questions. I've been reading a lot of books. I love knowledge, but I take it from an engineering viewpoint. I like knowledge as long as it's workable. It's great to read a motivational book. That's all great. In the end, for me, I have to be able to use it. That's my take on it. So if I can give you any advice regarding a subject that you feel like, you know, I need to have more knowledge on this particular subject, I'll be happy to let you know. Wendy Rod, okay, I'm actually looking forward to reading it and then getting back with some questions. All right. However, a lot of things lined up tonight. Okay, good. Thank you. Well, thank you, Wendy. That's great. All right. Okay, guys. So if there's no more questions, thank you so much for your time. It's been a very, very intimate setting, isn't it? Right? It has been a very intimate setting. It's just been Dita, my colleague, sitting over here, always helping me with anything I need, any technicality. She's doing a great job. She's been hosting here, making sure that the chat is all right. So I'm very grateful that she's here. You guys have been great, been very, very participating. Been lovely chatting with you. Fantastic. So thank you very much. I think next week, what are we going to do again? I think it was something about self-love. And we're going to go a bit deeper into that whole thing here, the mind. We're going to cover what is holding ourselves back and what it is actually that makes us feel miserable about ourselves, yeah, and how we can actually remedy that. It's going to be very, very informative data again. So I hope to see you next week, or if not possible, maybe another time. For now, have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy it. Wendy, enjoy your book. For anybody who still wants to order, you still have 20 minutes to avail yourself of the promotion. And have a great rest of the evening. I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.